Hello friends, Amy R here with Prairie Paper and Ink. This time, pretty much on time with this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, probably because I'm also the hostess. So, I will have that on my blog, which will be linked directly below the video. I'll have the graphic and a link and all the info. So, I started off with just my hardboard and some painter's tape. I've shown this in many videos when I have lots of little die cuts that I want to color. So I take some pieces of painter's tape and put them sticky side up, and then I just hold them in place with some more pieces of painter's tape. And then I'm sticking the pieces of the Simon Says Stamp Adeline Butterfly wafer die. This came out a while ago. So I die cut it from Canson XL watercolor paper, place them on there. And then I'm going to do some mixing of Distress reinkers. So my first mix is picked raspberry with some seedless preserves. I'm just putting them onto my little plastic palette here. My second mix was Blueprint, Sketch, and Chipped Sapphire. And then I have some Blueprint, Sketch, Chipped Sapphire. My green mix is Cracked Pistachio and Rustic Wilderness. And then I just have some salvaged patina, as is, and some fossilized amber, as is. Because I was kind of going for somewhat specific colors, and yet not really, because with the Color Throwdown, you don't have to be exact because colors show up differently on monitors, things like that. But I wanted a magenta sort of color, hence the picked raspberry and seedless preserves. I wanted a super deep, like almost navy blue. So I mixed Blueprint, Sketch, and the Chipped Sapphire. And then the green, I was just going after sort of the way it was showing up on my monitors. So hence me mixing the two greens. You could do this with watercolors, any sort of water reactive ink. I've done a ton of videos though using Distress reinkers because they're just fun. I did a post recently, and I will link to it if I remember. Recently, organizing my Distress reinkers and doing the little reinforcers that have the colors on the lids, just because people spot those and then they ask, like, where'd that come from? So I will link that post because I did a post, not a video, just explaining how I did it. So all I did was wet these little die cuts with water first, and then I add the reinker. Super simple, nothing too fancy, other than with these ones, the mix. So the picked raspberry and seedless preserves, I was going for sort of a magenta color. And I've mixed these two a lot. They're just meant to be mixed, in my opinion. I really like that color you get because it really is like a magenta color. And then for this green, I'm not sure if I've mixed Cracked Pistachio and Rustic Wilderness together. It creates an interesting green. I like it. It's fun. So same thing. Just got the die cuts wet with water. That just kind of helps everything move a little bit easier. And then put on the color. And then for this deeper blue, because Ranger doesn't have, or the Distress line doesn't have like a really deep blue. Like Chipped Sapphire has got almost like a purple undertone to it, and Blueprint Sketch is a very bright blue. Love them both, but mixed together, we're getting there, So I painted all of this. I sped up the drying process with my heat tool. You don't need to do this. You could just let them air dry. But I sped up the process with my heat tool because I decided to add a second layer. They're great as is, but I wanted the colors just even more intense. So that's what I did. I just let them dry and then added water again. That will kind of reactivate them because these are water reactive. But that's fine because I'm just painting the exact same color. You could get really creative and do like a different color on top, and let the colors kind of layer and mix. But I just wanted to really intensify the color that was there. And I'm glad I did this because it did, it gave me the look I was going for. Just that I kept the color more concentrated towards sort of the, the center of the butterfly. And this basically did what I was going for. Plus, I had all this ink sitting on my palette, and I was like, I don't really want it to go to waste. It doesn't really bother me that much sometimes, but when there's a lot there, I'm like, eh. So painted all these butterflies, just layered up all those colors and got them just the way I wanted them, and had really just fun with the process because this is just simple. So once I was happy with it, I let these dry completely again so that you definitely want them dry before you add any splatter. And then my splatter, all it is just some white gouache that I keep in this little porcelain palette because it can be reworked with water. There's also some Perfect Pearl powder still in there as well. Not in any sort of like, it doesn't really add any shimmer. I did think about adding shimmer, but I'll add bling later. So, you know, you guys know. But it needed splatter. Gotta splatter all the things. So I had left everything on this little hardboard because it just made my life easier. Splattered everything heavily. So super heavy splatter. Let this dry completely. And especially regardless of splatter anything, you definitely want everything to be super dry before you start peeling it off painter's tape or removing painter's tape if you've used that to tape down something you've watercolored. Because if it's still wet, it is going to tear. So make sure it is dry. It was dry. I removed all the butterflies. The butterfly body is from the same die set, and that I just die cut from just little scraps of cardstock, just black cardstock. I've mentioned this a lot in videos. I keep all my little scraps. It's just easier, you know, because for things like this, I had random, very narrow little scraps and they were perfect to die cut with the little bodies of this butterfly. So all I did was add tiny little dabs just to the little body, like the center of the body, adhered that to the center of each butterfly, and then these are all complete. So once I've got those adhered, I also die cut black cardstock with the CZ Design Thank You wafer die set. So I die cut the words from the black cardstock, and I am going to stack these together with the craft tacky glue so that I have 3 layers of these words just to give it that dimension that I love. And just adding thin amounts of the craft tacky glue, layering on the die cut, and then just moving it around until I've got everything lined up and it's good to go. And then the outline I die cut just from some vellum. So once I've got these words stacked together, I'm going to apply a very thin amount to the back of these. You don't want to be heavy-handed with the glue. I'm heavy-handed with like coloring and inks and that sort of a thing, and bling and splatter. But the one place where I try not to be heavy-handed and generally succeed is with liquid adhesive, because you don't want it oozing out especially when you're adhering to vellum. So I adhered my words, and then I pulled out just my tonic magnetic mat, and I have a piece of Simon's smooth white cardstock and one of Ranger's mini domed blending foams. This is actually my first time using these. I pretty much think I have a domed foam for every distress color. I ordered them all. Don't ask me why. I just ended up with a ton. So, yet haven't used them. So I'm giving them a go. So far, so good. This is literally my first time using them, so I need to like play with them some more to see whether I prefer these to the flat ones or what, you know. But I did very simple, just one color blend, just very simple with the Salvage Patina Distress Ink. I just thought it'd be a nice kind of blend. I was heavy-handed with the blend, not with the glue, but with the blend, because I brought it up way further on that cardstock. But anywho, so I did that, set it aside. My card base, more of Simon's smooth white cardstock. I get asked a lot about this washi tape on my trimmer. This is specifically for mini slimline cards. The edge of the washi tape marks the 6 1/4 inch mark. And then there's a line that I drew down the washi tape with a Sharpie that marks the 6 1/2 inch mark, so that I can cut my cardstock to 6 1/4 by 6 1/2 inches. And then I score it at 3 1/4 inches. So that makes my mini slimline cards 6 1/4 by 3 1/4 inches. So my card base is made. Pulled out another favorite set. This is the XL Greetings 2 set. I nearly used the exact same stamp that I use on like all the cards. The one that says just a card to say you're amazing. My absolute favorite stamp. But use this one instead. I was like, ooh, I'm mixing it up. So, you know, put this into my MISTI, like the card base in my MISTI, lined up this stamp. This I'm going to stamp with Salvage Patina Distress Oxide ink. You can use the distress inks, especially using something like a MISTI, to be able to stamp it more than once, because distress inks are not formulated for stamping. But it can work. But a lot of times you'll get a more blotchy appearance. But if you have something like a MISTI where you can stamp it multiple times, you can, you know, fill in the things. But when it comes to like stamping sentiments and just stamping in general, I do prefer the oxides. They just, you know, they've got that pigment in them. It just works. So stamp the sentiment. adhered one of the butterflies with Craft Tacky glue to the inside of the card. And then I adhered the blended panel to the outside with the Craft Tacky glue. And then once I've got that adhered, I'm going to start adhering all of these butterflies, just packing them right in there. I just wanted to kind of cover this. And I was very careful to barely let them hang over the edges of the card because I did not want to trim down these. I don't have a problem with it. Some people get it. Other people are like, what? You ruined it when I trim off, things that are hanging off the card base. Whatever appeals to you. If you don't like trimming them off, leave it. Use a bigger envelope. It's fine. It just depends on my mood. But with these, I didn't want to trim off anything. It was the mood I was in this time. So I made sure not to let them hang over too far because I wanted these to fit in a mini slimline envelope. And I will show that. Because I was curious. I was like, did I make them just a little too far off? But I'll get to that. So got them all adhered. And then the sentiment, I again applied the adhesive just behind the actual die cut words. Very thin amount. Don't want that oozing out because it does show through the vellum. So as long as it's behind the words, we're good to go. And then I just placed that right on top, and then I held it down with my hands because I'm gluing this on top of all that dimension, like all the die cut butterflies and everything. So I held that down with my hands just for the glue to start setting, and then I just threw some acrylic blocks on top of it just to hold it down, let it dry. And this is where the bling comes in. I thought about like adding more splatter, like shimmery splatter, shimmer spray, all the things. And then I was like, nah, I'm just going to add a bunch of bling. And this was the type of card where I could really get away with it. But again, you guys know I'll add like tons. I have multiple lifetime supplies of bling. But anyway, these are the Fairy Rocks little rhinestones from Trinity Stamps. So I sprinkle these heavily throughout this card, just cuz. And then just adhered them into place with Craft Tacky glue. And it wasn't enough, so I'm going to add more. So just keep going. More is more. So got those adhered. Going to add just one more. Yeah, just got to fill out that little corner there. So once that's adhered, this card's complete. I've got a mini black slimline envelope. And it takes a little bit of wiggling. Because again, these I just pushed it, but it fits. So I'm quite happy with that. So got them all adhered properly. It fits in the envelopes. That's just perfect. And that is my card for the moment. And like I said, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll link to the Color Throwdown Challenge. I'll have a supply list. I'll link to everything in the description box below if you want to check that out. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting. I very much appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!